All right. Welcome to the Rocket Launcher Podcast, episode 133. I am your host, Supreme King. Join with me, as always, is my co host, and his name is.
It's your guy Amazes.
I do want to say real quick, I'm a, put some respect on the Assassin's Creed franchise because it looked like they did manage to get a solid fan base at least.
Told you they would.
With whatever with the game that they have, it didn't really review that well, but at least there was a decent amount of people that was playing it. And then not only that, I do want to shout out the first Berserker Kazan, which is coming out the gate pretty strong. And that game does still have a demo if anybody wants to check out the demo first. But it was a pretty solid release for something that's brand new, with people, playing it all over the place, right? So I just wanted to mention that. And then afterwards, we could head right into the reason everybody probably would be here, is to get our takes on the Nintendo Direct, which happened earlier today. And then this was gonna go out tomorrow, this recording. But the Nintendo Direct was somewhat short and sweet a little bit. It was around 36 minutes long, so it didn't overstate its welcome, but it did. You don't want to say short.
No, I want to say short. I don't know if I want to say it was sweet.
Sweet. Well, it had its ups and downs. There was a few things that I liked. I mean, obviously, like with what's on the screen right now is just the very, very beginning of Metroid Prime Remastered. And I actually wasn't gonna put the footage for this game out yet, until it was like fully completed. But I'm actually more than halfway done, and I felt like it was more fitting to put the first video out during the show, since that fourth game was showcased in the show itself, somewhere in the middle, and it was something that I was looking forward the most. And it looks like they have it just about ready to go. But if we if we backtrack to the beginning of the show, they started off with Dragon Quest 1 and 2 HD remaster, which says it has a 2025 release window. A lot of games here had a 2025 release window, but not actually like release dates. But they showed this one first, and if anybody was paying attention, the third game was the game that they've showed off before, which I think may have came out late last year or early this year. The remaster of the third game. You do actually want to play that one first and then play 1 and 2. It's a weird order, but look it up just for the play order. So these two are the true sequels to that game. So it's a little out of order, but just look it up. I do want to play all three. I don't own any of them now, but I do want to play them at some point. But this game is not necessarily a world premiere or something. We've seen it already before, but I guess it's a stronger start just for this show, because this show didn't really have too much going on. It just had like a lot of what I thought was throwaways, really. But first game, what do you think?
For the Dragon Quest,
Mm-hmm.
while I'm excited for Dragon Quest, and this is kind of my criticism for a good chunk of the show, it's constant remakes. I'm noticing. I think that's just kind of the industry where it's at, where it's just like, where's the new Dragon Quest? Like,
I don't want to say I know it's the industry a little bit, but I do blame Nintendo personally, because I've been talking about them with these things. I'll call it just straight up ports. Because I actually wrote it down. I was like, it's just ports again. It's another show of just ports.
No, where I'm kind of excited because it's, like I didn't play the originals, right? So it's like
Hmm.
a more updated version that I get to try out, even though I can go find the originals, but like convenience, right? But at the same time, it's like, can I see this alongside like a an announcement that we're working on another one? Like I don't know, it feels like to me it's too many like, oh, you want this? Well, here's the old one. Now you're satisfied. And it's like, where's the new? Where's the new? But I mean, it looks
Yeah, there's quite a few different Dragon Quest games that you could probably look up for anybody that wants to know on Steam.
mm,
I saw a lot of them when I was wishlisting stuff. But yeah, the show is ports. I mean, Nintendo's been known for doing a show where they'll have their big releases like sprinkled throughout the show, but the main bulk of it is like literally every port they could think of. It was to the point where they would like show a port like every 30 seconds within this like compilation. I remember they used to do that in those directs where my complaint there was like, can you take your time and show off some of this stuff so we can actually get a chance to really see it? And they never really did that, and I think they kind of did that here because this would have been like really on fast forward on the main show with like Mario and some other things if it was like their main direct. But I think they want to save some of their Switch 2 content to showcase with their actual direct that they're going to do for the actual system, which I believe is on April 2nd. They was talking about it throughout the show, like we're going to do another show on April 2nd, and I think they were
that
saving a
one. I
lot
think
of their other things there.
I think that one's gonna also really focus on the Switch too.
Yeah. I think we might actually get the release date and also the price, because one of the rumors, or it might have just been a leak from Best Buy, is that it's supposed to be available for pre-order at as soon as the show drops, basically. So I
Oh,
know that's just gonna make things like really, really complicated online, especially with people trying to like scalp their pre-orders and stuff like that. But I think the pre-orders are gonna be available right when that show is ending, basically. So that'll be an interesting thing. I didn't write down every port or everything that was on this show, to be honest. I only wrote down the stuff that I was interested in.
so did you
Um,
notice that the show felt kind of? It always was like port something vaguely could be interesting, and
mhm.
then like kitty game, port vaguely interesting, kitty game, kitty game. Like that's what it felt like to me. Like there was a lot of these where I'm like, I don't want like to serve drinks to Disney villains. Like that was like the game,
Mhm.
and then it was like back to like, oh yeah, here's this bigger title, and then port, and then like here's something else that's like your cozy games, and that's what it felt like. It was just like, okay, why would we? And then when they kept announcing, and we're gonna do a show April 2nd for the Switch 2, it's like, why are we doing this show then? Like I feel like a lot of this could have been cut. You could have taken the big names and just throw it on the next show, but whatever.
I don't know. They might have had contracts with some of these developers or something. Like they may have struck a deal, like show us off on your platform or something. Um,
Maybe.
I mean, some of their bigger games, even with Metroid Prime 4, which was my highlight,
Hmm.
a lot of the stuff we've already seen already. Metroid and Pokemon was already seen already. Um, Funny
I'm gonna be honest.
enough,
Oh, go ahead,
go
go ahead.
ahead. I was just gonna say the game Shadow Labyrinth, which is like some sort of weird Pac-Man thing. I
Yeah.
had saw that already too.
Oh yeah.
I think
That was
that
an
was
old
on
one.
another show or something, and I had already
Uh,
wishlisted, but it was still nice to see it.
yeah, not only was it
Um,
on another show, it was part of that one show Secret Level, and they announced like right after the episode that they would be making a game, and then it was at the Game Awards. It was talked about.
well, this is like one of the only titles that had a definitive date. Like they gave that one as a July 18th, 2025. When I
Yeah.
looked at it online too, it didn't look like they were charging an arm and leg for this. I think this is still in the $20 range, something like that.
Hmm.
Um, So it was weird for them to mention Pac-Man towards the end, but there wasn't really a Pac-Man
Well,
logo anywhere.
uh, they announced it because I think it's well known that this is like a twisted take on Pac-Man. That was how the
Mm-hmm.
episode was presented. And then that's why you got the little yellow ball. And if you notice when they like morph together to platform, it makes the Pac-Man noises as
Mm-hmm.
it goes across. Like this was, I think that was just why it's like your evil take on Pac-Man. I guess for anybody who didn't know that it was inspired by that to begin with.
Well, it's nice they could do something like that without having like a Pokemon Power World kind of situation where we can just
Yeah.
just put out some artwork. You know what I mean? But
But speaking of Pokemon,
yeah.
I wanted to mention, funny enough, as like I'm one of the Pokemon people, right? As that, seeing the trailer for this, for the ZA made me
Hmm.
want it less.
I mean,
Uh,
it like this is the problem with Switch though. It's like their graphics and stuff really is just not up to par. Like
it wasn't
it's just
even the
not.
graphics.
Like
That's a part of it, but it also wasn't even the graphics.
mhm.
I don't feel like this game has a story. Like it was like you just chill during the day. At night, all the people like can battle, and that's when you have to like like attack people and everything and go to battle. Get your rank up, and then that's it. So it feels like a fusion of like Pokken Tournament along with Pokemon Legends Arceus. The only difference is, at least in Pokken Tournament, when you go to do your battles, you take over the Pokemon, and then it's like more of a fighter. Where this one, you're still kind of like off to the side a little bit. Like I don't feel like there's a progressive story. It's just battle over and over. And I think also the charm of Arceus was that it was like a different style of gameplay and a different like unique setting that was a remix of a loved like location. Where this one is like another loved location, but only like a couple years later, so it doesn't look that much different. Along with like they've already used this gameplay again for Scarlet and Violet, which I thought was a mistake. Um, so it doesn't feel that different from a mainline one, and then it also looks like it's going to be lacking a story. So I could be wrong. Maybe they're going to announce the story stuff more later, and I hope it's not just the tournament and then you're done. Uh, but because that was what was shown, it was just I'm like, like I'm a person that usually gets Pokemon games day one, and this one is like, I don't know.
I mean, it don't look well, Pokemon for me hasn't looked innovative in a while. It kind of just looked like they just throw you something really, but it really just didn't look innovative with this one. It kind of looked like the same. It was the last couple games was looking like, except they just brought back the Mega Evolutions, I guess. But it looks like the hardware is holding it back. Um, but I mean, we'll see going forward. We only have about a week to wait, to see if the hardware is gonna have like some sort of upgrades, and I actually think they would. But I think we're getting ahead of ourselves. Let me backtrack for a second. I did want to mention the Metroid Prime 4 Beyond game. I think came up a little bit earlier. For me, it's a day one buy, but I don't think I'm gonna play it until I get a Switch 2 if there is an upgrade.
Okay.
Only because I feel like there probably will be. We probably won't have to wait that long. But I do think that the upgrades are probably going to cost. I'm going to be honest. I think they're going to go to PlayStation route with it, and it's going to probably rub some people wrong. And I think the reason they've done this thing where it was like some sort of Switch game share later on in the show, I think that's probably to like lessen the blow a little bit. If you notice, they were saying something about like you can have a digital game cart and stuff,
Yeah,
and I'm like, what are you trying to sell me right now? Because I thought
they're
everybody
trying to
could just
say
log into it and just play.
no. They said that you could share it, but the secondary Switch also has to like I guess link to the primary Switch at least once for
Hmm.
them to know that you own both, essentially. And then they'd only let you borrow out for like 2 weeks.
Yeah, so it was like a
Come back.
14-day thing. So I
Yeah,
wrote down like
but
game
it says
share
it
with
doesn't
a
delete.
question mark.
It doesn't delete the save data. It said so. It's like you let
Hmm.
them borrow for 14 days, and you can let them reborrow it for 14 days if uh they want. I don't know.
Yeah, some of that's not clear, but I honestly think the reason is because it's not going to be in the show on the April. But I think there's going to say you'll have some upgrades and stuff, but I don't think they're going to tell you the cost part. They're probably going to soft release that on a blog or on their like on that new app that they mentioned at the very end of the show, because they don't want to just broadcast something like that. None of the shows usually do that with the cost, but I think what's probably going to happen is the obvious thing where all the games are going to be $70 going forward, and then with Nintendo it's probably literally everything at $70, and then after that for everything else that was already out, $10 upgrades probably, and their way of probably like masking that, with the backlash is telling you up front, hey, you'll get the game share, basically.
Mm.
Which I don't know, because they're putting limits on. I've never heard anybody put a limit on a game share. Usually, you just play the game, right? So I don't know how that works, but it's obviously they don't want you to just not buy the stuff. It's almost like, okay, you get the demo for a little while, and our games aren't really that long, so maybe you could probably beat it real quick, or you can reshare it later, that kind of thing. But I honestly think that's the reason why, is because they go hit you with some like price increases and stuff, which with Nintendo is like they couldn't wait to do it if you really think about it. That's just my take. I could be wrong. We got about a week to find out. But I really think that's what it is. Now, the other thing I want to mention in the show, they had with some of these games that I didn't really care too much for. I do want to give them some props for them being like somewhat of a shadow drop, where it was just like, here's a game, it's available today. You could download it right after the show or buy it right after the show. But I ain't write none of them down because I ain't like none of them. But at least they had it. Pokemon Legends ZA, one thing that I did notice is that with a lot of games on the show, when they were saying the release window, they would say 2025, but specifically Pokemon Legends ZA, they said late 2025, and that's like the only game that they mentioned late 2025. So
Which
that
I expect because all Pokemon games drop end of October, early November.
Yeah, so
Like all of them.
if that's the case, I mean, just logically speaking, a lot of the other stuff will probably come out throughout the summer, I would imagine. But they just never really put any dates on anything, for a lot of things. So that kind of took away some points from me.
I looked
Um,
at it the other way.
hmm
That they didn't want people for on some weird expectation that it might drop over the summer.
hmm
Like clarify. I think the other ones don't have. Like it's like when it's ready, and they don't really know. Like it
hmm
could be finishing touches or a lot. But then for Pokemon, it's like no, it's still October, November. We just don't have the day yet.
Well, they still gave the window of 2025,
Hmm.
so it would have to be because we're already getting ready to end the first quarter. So they're gonna have to come up with these dates eventually, because those days are gonna just keep eating away. 2025 is going through really quickly, for it to
Hmm.
be almost April. But the last thing I actually had on this list that I liked was Marvel Cosmic Invasion,
I'm
which was
indifferent.
your straight up like beat 'em up, I guess, side scroller beat 'em up. Probably no different than the Shredder Revenge, the Power Ranger Reader Rewind, or Streets of Rage, maybe. So I was like, you know what, I wouldn't mind trying it out. I'm pretty sure it's gonna be another 2 or 3 hour thing, but sure. What were you gonna say on this?
That I was indifferent. It's I felt like it's like oh cool Marvel, but it's still just the same. Reader's Revenge, Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles.
It's just trying to hit another demographic. They're quick. I know it's probably going to be like 3 hours or less, but it did sound like with this one, they had a couple different modes or different options you could swap in between people, like in a tag team kind of
Yeah,
thing.
and a lot more
So
characters.
yeah, it was a lot more
By
going
a lot,
on.
I mean 12 versus like 5, but I guess 6.
Yeah. Funny enough, I think this one might sell the most out of all of them.
Mm.
Except Streets for Rage. Streets of Rage had like a lot of time to like Streets of Rage 4, a lot of time to like you know gather some sales and stuff. I don't know if this game will catch up to that one, but at least with the other ones, the newer ones, this is probably going to sell more than those just because of Marvel. Marvel is alive and well known
Mm.
franchise. And then Marvel Rivals is still very strong right now. So yeah, that was the last thing that I actually liked. I did write down the last game that they showed. I didn't put the full name. I literally wrote Tomo Trash, but I think it was like,
Yeah, we got one more announcement. It was like the worst one.
yeah, it was like I think they tried to say, hey, this is a game that we brought back from the past and stuff, but I think they missed the mark on that because their fan base is still relatively new right now, and a lot of them, like if they're gonna sit there and not play like Metroid on the screen or some other games, and looking at the ports as brand new, they're not gonna know this game. It's gonna be brand new to them as well. So I didn't know why they shouldn't have positioned this one last. They should have positioned one of their other bigger names that was like in the middle of the show last. I don't know why they did this one. But yeah, I don't want to play that. That didn't look good to me. And there was like some other game like closer in the middle that looked like they was like stick figure drawings or something. I was just like, what are you doing? Like, what is this? This is trash. But
Are you talking about that rhythm one
I,
where they're
don't-
jumping through like little hoops and it was like
I
these
just
little
know it
balls?
was like black and white stick figure people that they just drew on the screen. I'm just like,
Yes, I remember that when they were like, you have to hop through the thing in time, and one of the ways they advertised it was saying you could play it with your eyes closed.
yeah, I'll fall asleep on it. Like, get that up out of here. I ain't about to play that. So no, I didn't really like
So
that. The Nintendo
what?
app, I think it was called Nintendo Today or something. I'll probably download it. I don't necessarily feel like I need the news coming from them like that. I usually got their blogs and stuff from other platforms, really. No
I
different than
feel
when they
like
was just like, "Hey, we got a direct coming." They just told you from another area.
yeah, I feel like
So
it's their way of saying like, if something like, hey, this leak happened, but they don't post it on their app. That's gonna be their way of having deniability versus like leaks just happening. Like I feel like that's they're sick of leaks, so they're just like, we'll post about it every day or something. So like people maybe will look to the app instead of the like leaks online. I
now
don't
they
know.
set an expectation high on this. Like they said they were gonna give you an update on the Switch 2 every day. There was
Bet you
gonna be
one of
a
them updates
new
is gonna
update.
still happening. Like that's all it's
Yeah,
gonna
I'm
say. It's
like,
still happening.
what type of update are you gonna do? Now I do remember like back in the day a little bit. It's funny I have to say back in the day, but Super Smash Brothers Brawl. I remember every day they did an update where they were telling you all of the different characters that was going to be in it or just different
Mm.
things like different weapons or different trophies or something within the game. They did something like that once a day on like a Super Smash Brothers website leading up to the game's release, and it got a lot of people hyped, but um I don't know if that same type of energy would be here for the Switch too. It's like, what else can you really say? Because you're gonna have to say a lot in the direct itself. So I don't know what else you need to say in an app, but um, I would like to see it. Hey, I'll download the app for the news and stuff because I gotta talk about some of the news anyway. But that was the end of their show. Like I said, it was about 36
One more.
minutes.
One more game, real quick. The one I was interested in was the Rido remastered because I'm an Atlas fan now. And I never heard of this one, but it looks like it's the same concept as all your other uh, Persona and The what's it called?
Mm-hmm.
What's their other game besides Persona? What's the
Shin
universe?
Megami Tensei.
Yeah, that one. It's the same thing, but you're a detective, and you summon like little demons while you're trying to like solve a mystery. So that one seemed interesting, and I know that's a remaster, but I also had never heard
Mm-hmm.
of the original before, so that was cool. And I guess just still waiting for Persona 6.
Well, I kind of cut this show right in the middle. I said it was like more of a 5 out of 10. I am still sick and tired of that music that they play when they get on the screen and stuff and say like, "This is the show" and stuff. But they weren't talking to you like a tiny little baby, as much as like a lot of them from a year or two ago.
Yeah,
But they still using that same music. Like they gotta cut that, please. Like with the Switch 2 show that's next week or so. Like have a whole new theme song that you're gonna use from here on out. Cause that junk just sound like PBS to me at this point. I'm like, it don't get me excited. But
I gave
five
it a
out of
4.
ten was right in the middle for me.
I gave it a 4 out
For
of 10.
I
Yeah, it
still
was too many. Like even though like I just said one of the ones I wanted is still a remaster. To me, it was still too many remasters. And then too many of the, I guess, classified cozy games to like really gauge my interest, and then it just ended on just such a, to me, like a bad note. Like at that point, it's like end with the Marvel one, or end with the fact that you have an app that's gonna give you updates about the Switch 2, but it's like the one they chose to end with was just okay. Like I don't know. So 4.
um I do think this generation is still a generation of here's a new hardware that plays the same games better. And I think the Switch 2 is really going to amplify that on their system because the Switch itself was already doing that, but they were pulling from in the past. Now I think they're going to pull from the past and then turn back around and grab regular Switch games and say they're going to have upgrades. And so I think I really do think they're going to do both. But it is what it is. If the people gonna buy it, then they're just gonna buy it. I mean, hey. So, 5 out of 10. I do like their aggressiveness though with having two shows one week after another.
Yeah.
Because if they would have took this and conveyor belted it like how they done like in previous shows, where it's like for 5 minutes we're just gonna have something showing every 15 seconds, it was just that wouldn't have worked. It definitely wouldn't have worked. At least here they took their time to show you some stuff. It's just I ain't like it. It was just it is what it is. Um, but I would prefer them to have this method over some of their previous ones because the conveyor belt thing was really bad overall. Anyways, we can probably move on. Um, Speaking of like news apps and stuff, so tell me real quick, because I guess it's official at this point. What's going on with Game Informer? Is that official?
Yep, it's official. They back. So they said they were gonna drop news this week, and the news is they're back. So Gunzilla Games, who has a popular game right now called Off the Grid, that I've been hearing about, but they bought it. So they bought the license, and they're like, we're gonna be a hands-off boss. Brought back all of the original team for Game Informer, like the regular people who had just lost their jobs. It was like it's all yours now. So they're gonna be doing their own like, I guess, subscription thing. And all of the old ones are just available to get now. But yeah, Game Informer is officially back.
So when we say they back, is it still just digital or online kind of thing?
They said they're gonna start off digital, and then they'll be talking about how they're gonna do print again.
And they're not in any way, shape, or form connected to GameStop,
Correct.
basically. So if you had a GameStop subscription or whatever for the people, just to be clear, that subscription does not include Game Informer in any way,
It does
and
not.
Game Informer in subscriptions does not include GameStop in any way, right? So for the people out there, if you wanted both, it's two separate subscriptions, of my understanding.
Yep. And I don't know if they have a price yet for Game Informer, but they did say that yeah, all of their older issues, all of them, like they said, it's a backlog, um, has been republished online.
So is their original app still is that still working, or do they have like a new app or something?
Probably have a new app. They didn't mention it.
Okay. I just know I had the app, but I didn't really do nothing really with it. But yeah, that's pretty cool if they come with some news. Like I said before, I would like to see not just another news station, but like actually break news.
Mm.
Please break the news if you have news. Yeah. Let me jump back real quick to the Nintendo Direct. I do want to reiterate for the people out there, because I know there's gonna be somebody who's like extra excited about the Switch 2. So again, the Switch 2's Direct is on April 2nd, 2025, and be prepared to, you know, pre-order right away if you want to, through places like Best Buy, because I think the pre-orders are going to start when the show starts. And hopefully you don't really have a situation where it's just like the pre-orders are sold out. They claimed beforehand that they were going to have up to 20 million of these things available in the first year. So if that's true, you should not have to worry about it too much. And it's supposed to start off with like 2 million at launch or something. So we'll see. But for anybody who really wants to like have this right away, you're going to have to pre-order relatively quickly. So have that up on your phone or on a different screen while you're watching this show, and then just hit the buttons on it. Don't even worry about nothing. Sign into your profiles on any of these websites like Best Buy, probably Walmart, and some other ones. Sign in and then just hit the buy button, and then go back later if you don't want it. But yeah, we can move forward again. Um, I'm just looking at your stuff. What do you want to say about Astrobot's director? What you want to say about that?
He said, in some interview that he said, I need to say what the industry needs to hear. It's okay to make small games because players today have a backlog of games that they can't complete. So like yeah, or the senior writer at Games Radar was able to I guess get that. But yeah, the director of Astrobot was like pretty much talking and just saying that like it's okay to not have like a bloated 100-hour plus game. It's okay to make smaller games because players just don't have time to play everything.
Yeah, it's interesting to say that. I've came to the conclusion to always pair one bigger game with a relatively small game, secondary game. I was actually going to mention some of the stuff later on, in the Epic Games section, because I bought a couple things while downloading some of their free stuff
Mm.
for the PC. But
So I'm of
maybe
two
you
minds.
don't. Say it again.
I'm of two minds on it. So one, I do support that, like having smaller games. Like I've always like, I guess it's like a 10 to 20 hour experience where I enjoy all of it. To me, is much better than 120 hours where the entire middle I'm bored with, or there's a bunch of fetch quests. All right, like just go here, grab the item, come back, and you're just kind of doing that over and over again. I find myself I enjoy, especially because I like story-driven games. Sometimes the shorter ones, and it doesn't have to be extra short, like 2 hours, but like like Uncharted 4, where it was just a nice 24-hour game, or even High on Life was about 14 hours. I really enjoyed those, but also 70 is a lot for like an 8 hours of like an 8 hour game, right? Like I don't know, like it's that price that's getting it that makes
Hmm.
it weird. But then sometimes I feel like some of the companies, to justify the game being full price, they just bloat it with things that don't need to be in there, and then it ends up making it boring.
I am picking up a lot more of the side scrollers and stuff going forward. A lot of those are hovering around 5 hours, 3 hours, that type of thing. One of them that I'm gonna play really soon, I think it's 2.5 hours. And so like I could play a couple of those while playing the bigger title. And it kind of works his way. It works out. Like you
Yeah.
can look at I guess how long to beat, and if anybody is like on Game Pass on PC, I think they've incorporated some stats in there where you can see how long games are and how difficult it is and stuff, and then you can make a decision and say, well, if I'm going to play the harder game here, then I could pair it with something that is relatively not hard at all. Like one of them for me, well, the racing games are one of the ones that I pair it with. Hot Wheels 1 and 2. Um, and then most recently, I picked up the Sonic game that I was talking about not too long ago, Sonic Team Racing. So I've been doing a lot of the racing ones, and those I don't really count as like a hard, start to finish type thing, I guess, unless you increase the difficulty. Um, but yeah, that's how I've been doing them. The harder games that I'm technically playing right now, probably the hardest is Ninja Gaiden 1. But funny enough, though, I'm gonna be honest with the people. I had put down gaming for like a couple weeks to like just play with Rubik's cubes, but
Yeah, you
I'm gonna try to pick it back up. But I really did. I just kind of stopped on everything and just kind of like got really into it. But on a side note, I do want to mention um the game on the screen is Mortal Shell. I believe is the PC version. Is not the enhanced version that I think was given away on Epic Games. My co-host was playing this to win back his man card, but I got to say we cannot accept this footage because he did not beat the first boss in this footage. Nobody accepts Souls game footage without seeing the first, at least one boss fight. So we need to see that boss fight, sir. His name is Grisha, I believe, who was the first boss, which actually is not too far from where you were at the end of this. And he ain't nowhere near as actually hard as Lords of the Fallen. That shouldn't even be a problem, actually. But
Yeah, it's just
yeah,
I'm playing Persona 5 Tactica. I was already into that. So I kind of went back to my main games instead of like because all the rest of them it was mainly just like I was giving it like a 15-minute tryout and then I was going back to my main stuff.
well, yeah,
I'll
man, we
get back to
need
it eventually.
we need to see that. We need to see that. We'll be checking in, just like we checking in on Resident Evil 7. We holding you accountable on some of these titles, man. But anyways, what was I gonna say? Let me look at this. Okay. Let's run through some of the other ones. So, the Tony Hawk game. Now, I thought this was kind of blown out of proportion, but they gave it too much notoriety before like having old boy out of the game. Why
Yeah,
was he out of the game to begin with? What was going on with
yeah,
this?
controversy. He's nothing that's like a cancel thing, but like he had his own personal demons going on with like
But are we talking about him as a? Is he an artist? Is he a music artist?
Margera. No, he's a skateboarder.
Oh, he's a skateboarder. Okay,
Yeah,
I'm really out the loop on it. I didn't know what I was like. So he's just a character that you could play as is like
yeah.
skating and stuff. Like, is it really that
Well,
big of a deal?
well, the idea was supposed to be like so some it's like he went through a dark period where he was just kind of public intoxication and all that stuff and nothing that
hmm
was like is the one where everybody's like he needs to go and get help, right?
Okay.
And he's been finally like getting that help on the men, like fixing stuff, and it's been great. And then they announced they were doing the remake, and it was just like, yeah, but we're gonna leave him out. Is what they wanted to do. And everybody's like, well, what? Like half of them are like, yo, he's been working hard to fix him, like fix life and everything. And then the other half are like, well, how are you gonna remake the game and take stuff out? Right? Like that was kind of how it feels like. If you're gonna remake it, put it back in there, and put him back. And apparently, Tony himself was the heavy push and was like, you gotta put him back in the game and everything. So it's more of just like a fallen hero like being, because some people really looked up to him, especially from your skateboarding community.
Hmm.
And then of course going through his dark times and everything, it was like, dang, you really seeing your hero like fall. And I guess like this is their way of trying to say like we recognize that you're like been trying to make it back. So
What
those
was
are
the
the way.
time frame on this dark time though? What we talking about? Like
Uh,
how long ago was it? Because I mean, nobody turned their back on Jeff Hardy. I mean, if that's
True.
the case,
Well, some people did. Uh, Starting in 2010, he started getting legal issues.
and that's old though. That
And
feel
then, well,
like
then he got fired. But it started in 2010. He
what's the
also got
end?
arrested in 2023.
Okay, 2023.
Right. So it's been, uh, it's been some time. It was still like public intoxication, things like that. He was in, like of course the skateboarding games and like Jackass and everything, and got fired from there. Um, Basically, I think it's been like alcoholism. Like it's been
I
a
mean, that's kind
downtown
of
issue.
silly when we come out with
Sorry,
M-rated games
2024.
like every year though.
He
Like,
violated his probation in 2024.
I guess.
As well.
You know what's funny though? We'll judge somebody like him, but put uh I'm gonna put his initials. People know who he is. AH in every shooter, every zombie shooter.
Yeah,
You know what I mean? And we go there with that time frame with the symbol and everything.
yeah.
And that's like it's been a staple in video games now for a long time. So
Hmm.
how is something like this guy's like something we can, start judging for us? Like we got to judge the industry on that because they literally keeping his name alive in
Oh yeah.
everything.
There's no excuse for that one. I guess the company was trying to say because he's still been having, like he's like he gets on the men, he's
Hmm.
trying to do right, and then he messes up again, and it's
Right.
been like on and off for almost 15 years. So they're trying to like I guess cover themselves and just be like, well, he's going to be on a man, and I think most of the people are like, we're not judging him for now, and we're not going to look bad at your game for including him if he's not like we understand that this is a remake, put him back in, like he's trying. So
Was AH trying?
again, I have no excuse for that one, bro.
Cause I'm just cause we would go there all the time. Like it's like every
Because
other couple years, and it's not even just in gaming. Like his name just keeps coming up everywhere else, and was like,
I
well,
guess if you need someone to be just the absolute villain, you got like two options. You got him, and you got the king of the underworld himself. Like those are your two. But I mean, it's not an excuse to constantly make him just this popular figure. Like I don't have an excuse for it. As someone who also played the whole Zombie Army trilogy stuff, we played through it. Zombie
yeah,
Army,
I'm just saying, cause
I didn't put him in there.
the other dude ain't gonna do nothing but just be an NPC on the screen that you just skateboard with. Like it can't be that big of a deal.
That's why people are
Like
happy.
it's kind of silly, cause even the character from Grand Theft Auto 5, Michael, his whole like backstory is like he's like a madman that drinks a lot, basically. So I'm like, well, if we could put fictional ones in there and act like it's okay, sensationalize it, and all these. We have all these M-rated games. Like literally, Tony Hawk was about to be like rated T for teen, probably, maybe even E for everyone, and you ain't gonna do nothing but just skate on a
Yeah.
like
Let's,
really, come on.
let's be real. One of the first things you do is create a person. Most people
Yeah.
are gonna use that.
So I mean, that's goofy. That's goofy. Let me jump back to one of my topics real quick. A topic of conversation I think I've been hearing people talk about for a while now, but it's now starting to get a little bit more amplified. And that's the Xbox's next console or handheld. The main thing that people are focusing on is Steam as a launcher, and probably a few other launchers, but mainly Steam, being
Mm.
on the Xbox console and some sort of PC partition being on the Xbox console, and then also vice versa. The Xbox app really integrating Xbox games that were most notable of being only on Xbox from the past, now being a part of an app through like PC and stuff. But it looks like just to open the door for a lot of people who probably couldn't afford a decent, rig or something, that the next Xbox system is going to have Steam on it, which opens up this whole taboo thing that people are talking about now, where the talk is about how if there are PlayStation games that are on Steam, well, then they're going to be playable on through Steam through your Xbox, and then all these other JRPGs and countless things that has just been skipping Xbox for the longest, especially Square Enix games. Um, having PC versions, and so those versions would just be available on Xbox the second they flip the Switch. Um, I'm kind of excited to see how that will go. The handheld in itself, I still feel like for myself, the Rogue Ally is already doing something similar. Steam Deck as well. That I have both, so I'm not too excited to just get that, but I am excited to see like going forward the system having a partition and you being able to like really look at the PC side and the console side at the same time on one system. It is going to be a game changer. It's somewhat taboo, but it seems to be something that we're hearing about a lot now, but we haven't had a definitive statement from Xbox or Microsoft yet. But that's what's been talked about for a couple weeks now, probably actually a couple months. But what is your take on that? Steam on Xbox, Epic Games on Xbox, Good Old Games I think is another launcher, Ubisoft launcher, just any PC launcher, you have the ability to access it from the console on a partition. How you feel about that?
Forward for technology. And I feel like as a person, and this is the person who does not have an Xbox, I mean, exclusivity is kind of dumb at this point. I don't know, like, it's just, especially with a lot more people moving to PC anyways. Um, for most of them, there is no exclusivity, right? It's just if the game comes out, it's on PC, it's out. Uh, I don't know. It's just, I feel like at this point, if you get a console, it's because that's where your friends play.
Mm.
Other than that, most of the people are getting PC, or it's just that's what you're most comfortable with, right? Like, who wants to spend the $1,200 for a top-notch like PC if you can do the 500 for the console? Like, is what some people are sticking with, and it's just I don't feel like exclusivity is that major of a thing. You're gonna get the one you want to get, or you're gonna get both, like consoles at this point. So whatever you play it on is on you. I think it's good if they can figure it out and master it. And if other consoles can figure it out too, and everything's just like everything feels more convenient, and I think that's better. Convenience to me is better than trying to say this console's better than that console.
I do think it's an automatic checkmate for them if they do it, because like places like Square Enix especially, where it had got very ridiculous with like that Final Fantasy's Pixel collection, where they had every like logo on the screen when they had that release, and it was like everything but Xbox, and it's like it was on PC, it was on mobile, both Android and Apple and everything, and so many JRPGs. Like it was like just known that people were just saying if you play on Xbox you don't like JRPGs, and it was kind of a blanket statement, and people ran with it for so long. But this will allow all of them to just be available, because all
Right.
like almost all of them are just like directly on Steam, And then obviously the elephant in the room, God of War being on Steam, Last of Us, Spider Man, a few of them being on Steam. If they're on Steam, then they should be playable. I do think it would be weird for PlayStation to try to figure out a way to try to stop that. I don't
Well, they
even know if you
might.
can.
The one way they might try and force it, because they still want you to have a PS. They've been wanting you to have a PS account.
Mm-hmm.
If you get it, so even though people, if they figure it out and they go, I have a PS account on Xbox, all PlayStation is going to see is you got a PS account. Is all they care about. So there is that.
But would they try to block you from playing your own game that you bought through
It
Steam?
has to be through PC. Like it's like it doesn't
Like, is
recognize
it possible to do that? Like, I don't even know.
I don't
I
know if it doesn't recognize this as like an official player. I don't know. That would be weird to try and do. If anybody
Yeah,
will find a way, PlayStation will.
they'll try it. I don't know how it will work, but they'll try it. But I do think that's an automatic checkmate. That's a good move. That it does also introduces the trade off to getting rid of physical media, because from last year to now we were hearing about how physical media was going away. It almost seems like it was being forced away, but it looks like that would be like somewhat of a trade off in a way that's a little bit better, where it's like you now have access to a lot of different libraries all in one spot. And you can like still take your stuff and like start on one thing and finish somewhere else because of the save data. And Microsoft has done an excellent job in syncing your save data automatically, where it's just seamless, where you don't have to do anything. Because I know with PlayStation, that it was like a headache and a half, where it's just you got to go in there, make sure the console is like updated to the latest whatever, and then go to the cloud and make sure that you sync something to the cloud, and then go to the other system and then make sure that is updated, and then you go to that cloud and try to find it and download the data. It was just like work at that point. Where on the Xbox side, I used to just turn it on. I just turn on the stuff and it's just there. It's just there and it's working. And I would imagine when they come out with their next system and stuff, when they do all of this stuff, like it'll be that seamless. And they already have a working relationship with Asus, and their logos is like all over the Steam Deck by default. So they really are infiltrating the industry. But I think we're going to see a lot of good coming out of it. I think their approach is very similar to the emulation scene, where it's like all these different devices, but they're trying to brand it as like everything is an Xbox, and
Xbox is everything, and everything is Xbox.
it seems like that's where we're going, I guess. It was already like that though for a very long time. They just didn't really say it in your face, because like my work computers at my job, when I go on there, like every now and then, because it's still running Windows PC, like it'll have like the Xbox logo pop up and it'll just mention Game Pass. And I'll look at it and be like, this PC not even built for that, even if I wanted to do that. Like, I don't even know why this is on here. But it'll do that like on the actual little workstation. And those are like supposedly locked down computers. And so if it's gonna do that there, it's doing that on everybody's personal system no matter what. And so everything really is at that point like Xbox. We can move forward. What did you want to mention real quick about Japan and the shrines?
Yeah, so there was a shrine in Ghost of Tsushima, right?
Oh, I heard of this story.
Zumi Shrine.
Yeah.
And it was inspired by what believed is the Scarlet Rock Shrine. And then also in Assassin's Creed Shadows, you can do shrines. Now shrines are considered like holy places in Japan, and now they've just announced like for the Scarlet Rock Shrine, there's a tourist ban because people have been going to it because they recognize it from the game. Not everyone has been like doing bad stuff to the shrine, but it's like, you know, this is supposed to be like a very holy place where people like it honors one of their deities, and people are
Hmm.
just going up to like take selfies and be like, look, I found the shrine from Ghost of Tsushima, and Japan ain't happy about it. So now it's you have to like somehow prove that you're there to like actually respect and pray to the shrine. You can still take photos if you're allowed in, but you have to prove that you're not there just to take photos and that you're some sort of tourist. Oh, I don't know how you prove that, but they mentioned it's just like, yeah, we're not letting tourists in, and they're blocking it off, and they're also mad at the games for letting you destroy the shrines.
Yeah, because I think they walked back something in Assassin's Creed Shadows because
Mm-hmm.
the game was about to be banned in one of them areas if they
Yeah, they
didn't.
might have done something real bad with the shrine. I don't know.
So that was a thing. So
Yeah,
I guess
I'm just interested on how you prove it's like. No, I'm here to like actually respect it. Like at first when I was reading it, it almost made it sound like you had to like be from that village to actually go because it means something to you and you can't be a tourist at all. But they were like,
mhm.
no, no, if you're to respect it, you're allowed in. But it's like, how do you prove that? Like, I don't know how you prove it. I guess they're gonna give you a little quiz at the beginning to see what you know about the shrine. Like, do you understand what it honors and all this other stuff? Maybe it's an honor system. I don't know, but yeah, banned.
I mean,
They
can't
had
you like if you was looking at it and you had a camera? I mean, some of these cameras zoom in from a really far distance. Like,
yeah,
I mean, you really got to get that close to it. You could
but at least
probably,
that's what they want. Really far distance. Don't go up next to it to take a selfie, take a photo.
yeah. Well, it is what it is on that. But I guess we can move forward. Shout out to Epic Games. Most hated launcher from Steam users, but I always like to shout them out because they give away a lot of free titles, and we can't complain too much when something is free because free is free, and we all like free stuff. And so the games that they have, it's funny because I think I had mentioned before that it was going to be Dragon Age, but I guess it's not going to be Dragon Age. It was Cat Quest, and funny enough, I didn't pay attention at first, but they sort of hinted at it at one point because I think like when it was like a mystery, it was like they used the term fur or something like that, or
Mm.
the actual mystery game was wrapped in like a cat kind of design or something on their graphic the whole time, and I didn't really pay attention. But Cat Quest was what they gave away. That's available from now to April 3rd. It's actually a game that I already had under Epic, so it was something that they double dipped for because I don't remember buying that at all. But hey, free is free. So it wasn't just that one, it was actually also a game called Nico Ghost Jump, which when I looked at it, it looked like one of those like you lose your man card if you play it games, but it was like a platformer or whatever, and I was like, okay, it's probably something
It's
that's
actually look
probably.
pretty decent. It's I think you switch right between 2D and 3D.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah, so I
so
was
it's
like,
like
okay, if I played Ninja Gaiden 2 in April like I plan to, like I could probably pair this with it because it'll be a very, very opposite game.
yeah,
So I was like, here's something really hard, and here's something that's probably not hard at all. And so that was the thought process. So I had actually already downloaded it on my bigger PC already, and I also bought a game that was available on their launcher that is on sale right now. And this was called Vengeance of Mr. Peppermint. It was actually a game that I had like talked about a whole long time ago when I was doing videos on the regular. Where this one is, it's almost like a John Wick dude who's just like pissed at the world, and he's just like beating the crap out of people. He's punching and caving their face in. There's blood everywhere. Very graphic game for a 2D like beat 'em up. But this is another game that I actually downloaded on my my new PC or bigger PC with the 4090. You definitely don't need a 4090 for this one, but this is available right now until I believe April 9th on sale. It goes back to regular price after that, but it's like $8.99. I bought that, and I bought a game that was on my wish list that was called They Always Run, which is another side-scrolling kind of hack and slasher. What was cool about it is like the game called They Always Run is right now available for $2.99. I recommend it. It's like $2.99. You're not gonna miss it. And then Vengeance of Mr. Peppermint was like $8.99, right? And then I actually had like $2 and like 30 cents in like some sort of credit under Epic that I used, and then I had another credit from my credit card. And so I actually got this price to jump from, I think altogether it was like $9 and some change after the Epic Games credit. And then like when I made the payment on the credit card, my other credit actually took away like another $7 and some change. So it's like it was like $2. I had wrote this down. I paid $2.34 for both of these games, and then I earned 47 cents back on Epic. So it was like, all right, I caught like one of these like major steals of savings. But that's another cool thing. Like if you do buy some games on Epic, sometimes I buy some of them on the Black Friday time frame. Like they'll give you some cash back in points within the system or within your profile, and it'll last you for a few years. And so I used it here and got a lot of stuff really, really, really cheap. But I do also want to mention real quick, Epic Games has another mystery game that's lined up for April 3rd. And that's all we know so far. So they're still doing the mystery thing right now. And I don't know how long they're going to do it. They do that every now and then. But at the end of the day, whatever they reveal, free is free. Any other free games or sales or anything like that that you want to mention? Are you muted? I didn't hear you.
I don't think so. Can you hear me?
I can hear you now.
Oh, okay. Yeah, no, I ain't got nothing.
Okay. I can move on to the last part, which should have been covered last week, but I didn't get around to it. It was actually the Future Game Show. Now, with the Future Game Show, this show is a lot longer than the Nintendo Direct. I believe altogether it was technically two shows in one. They had like a regular show and then like an after show. But the recording that I saw from their YouTube channel, the whole thing was like 2 hours and 47 minutes, and there was actually no like 30-minute countdown to it at all. It was just like a full 2 hours and 47 minutes. They actually put together a show because they started off with like a host. It was a guy and a girl. That's their format. That's usually well-known voice actors. And I didn't catch the girl's like voice acting, what she's been known for. But the dude did mention at one point that he was the dude who played Nathan Drake from the Uncharted series. And I was like, oh, okay. But I actually had like the show going up on like 3 different screens to like really cut it down. And you didn't see, or you don't have content on this. Is that what you said was me before?
Like I went through to try and remind myself of some of the games, because like I definitely got booted out of memory. So I went back and looked at some of the games.
So this was their spring showcase, I guess, which I didn't really get like too much of a head notice. It just sort of popped, and it was just kind of there, and I was like, oh, okay. But yeah, it was a really like longer show of a lot of different things. And I did write down a couple of things. I didn't like everything, but there were some nice things here and there. I do want to mention right away though that I appreciate that the show had demos for a lot of these games, so you can
Yes.
a lot of the stuff that I mentioned, or if you go back and look at the bigger list, you can, if you click on the game, it'll have a demo that might be available right away. But the first game that they showed was called Claire Obscured Expedition 33. This is actually a game that that I have on my list to play as soon as I jump back into Game Pass, which is going to be next month. Because this is one of the games that's going to come out on Game Pass, debuting right next to South of Midnight that they showed off on this show a couple times. Both day one in Game Pass, so I'm looking forward to both of those. It is action RPG, or I want to say it's still turn based, but it looked more like Final Fantasy VII the way it is. I think it's like that type of turn based. But yeah, I look forward to it. Um, you remember this game at all? Because this is something that was shown in a couple other areas.
It's been on my list since its first showing. It's been on my list. Oh yeah, yeah. Matter of fact, the last big show, right? That happened. I
Hmm.
think it was excuse me. Like I think it was an Xbox show. This was like one of the four
The
limited edition
January
multiplayer games.
direct, I think. Yeah, the
Yeah, this is one of
January
the
one.
four.
They showed it there. Yeah, and I don't know if they showed it anywhere else, but I know for me, I was going to play this game, South of Midnight Ninja Gaiden 2 remake that was shadow dropped on that show, the January show. And then Doom the Dark Ages. Those are the main four that I was going to play as soon as I jump back in. In some order, I don't really know the order yet. But those are the main four, and then a whole bunch of stuff from the history of Game Pass, maybe like Forza and what's the name, Flight Sim for sure. But yeah, this was the first game that they led with. The second game that I wrote down was Omnimushi 2, which I believe is a port from the PlayStation 2, basically.
Mm-hmm.
So they remastered this, and I think the first and second one is available on Steam. For anybody who's not aware, that's a Capcom game
Mm-hmm.
from the PS2 era. So go look it up. Go look up the original. I'm pretty sure I have the original on my Steam Deck through emulation, but I did put this one on
Pretty sure
the
I
wish
played
list.
the original on PlayStation 2.
Yeah. And then the next game I actually wrote down was called I Hate This Place. Funny name, but this is like a horror game that is very interesting in their point of view, because sometimes it goes into 2D, sometimes it jumps into 3D, and then sometimes they have like a top-down perspective. And so you can like, I don't want to say you jump back and forth, like it probably is in sections of the game, but they gave you like different ways of looking at it. And it's still a horror game at its core. So it's something I was looking forward to. It was a little innovative. But I did want to mention, because I have this on here, this being the first horror game, but there was some other horror games that was shown. Like, I kind of feel like if you gonna show a horror game, you can't just give a teaser very similar to how the movie industry does with their trailers. Like, I think you still got to show somewhat of gameplay, because I can't really just go off of a horror trailer, like a teaser trailer that looked like it's just gonna make me say, okay, maybe I want to watch it as a movie, but it doesn't translate to gaming for me.
Okay.
Um, but that was something that I noticed, because there was a whole bunch of other ones. Well, not too many, but it was a few other ones where I didn't really have any interest in it because they didn't really show gameplay. They just kind of made it a horror trailer, teaser trailer. But yeah, I want to move on. The next game I wrote down was called Anaya Life After Gods. I
Okay.
put a star after this one. This one looked really nice.
Your
It's a
Metroid.
2D slasher with a
Mhm.
story. What did you say?
I was like, yeah, you and your Metroidvanias, like you love it.
Yeah, yeah. This one is definitely right up my alley. I've always been looking at a lot of those. It was really
So
flashy. There was another one that came right after that was like extra slow, and they called it a Souls like, and I was just like, skip. Like it just didn't
yeah.
look good. But this
So
one looked a lot better. Mm-hmm.
before Anaya, they had the Revenge of the Savage Planet. The like it was like a
Mm-hmm.
co-op goofy fighting like going to different planets like fighting the
Mm-hmm.
they were all collecting stuff. I thought that looked fun.
Okay. Okay. Next game is actually very interesting. It was called Death Ground. It looked just like a Jurassic Park game. I actually thought at first it was the Jurassic Park game that they announced before on a different show, but it
Mm,
wasn't. It's a whole nother game that's like, running from the dinosaurs kind of thing. So Death Ground is the name of it. We'll just have to see more of it going forward. The next one I have is Rome Stead.
what's up with
This one has like, the art style of like Octopath Treasures, Triangle Strategy, Sea of Stars, like that type of art style.
yeah?
And it looked pretty nice to me, so I wish listed it. But what were you gonna say?
I actually had a couple before that one, before the
Okay.
Rome set. One was, and it's been shown off before, Kingmaker or Kingmakers,
Mm-hmm.
where you're basically like it's a bunch of knights and you have modern weapons. So you got like a tank and guns, and they all have like swords and shield, and it's just like you fighting an army
Okay.
using your gun. I thought that looks fun.
I did.
And
I
then
did
there,
remember seeing that one. That one was kind of like it was a lot going on because I think he said we're gonna simulate thousands of like people on the field, and it's not that they just spawn in, but they're gonna just be there
yep.
until you kill them off and stuff. And so I was like, oh man,
But you
but
have like
yeah,
a Gatling gun, you can just mow them down.
yeah, it
So
was weird. It was
that looked
weird.
fun. And then
Yeah.
Shelf Heroes. It was like
Okay.
a roguelike shooter, but you're like toys. So it was like it was like almost like a fusion of like
I think I
Toy
remember
Story,
that one. Yeah.
like what was that old? It was Small Soldiers, the movie that I watched as a kid. It was basically
Hmm.
Small Soldiers, but like cartoonier. Um, but yeah, that one also interests me. Those were shown off right before uh Romestead.
Okay. Next thing they showed, or at least the next thing I wrote down was South of Midnight, which I think was shown twice. With some gameplay footage. It's very interesting that the skeleton of this honestly reminds me of Forspoken so much, but it just does not have the Forspoken cringe that
Mm,
everybody was annoyed with. It just doesn't have that with the dialogue. But like the skeleton of it, the way the girl moves around and fights and jumps and stuff, it reminds me of Forspoken. And I'm kind of excited about that too though, because it seems like it's another studio that took something similar and just made it different and better. And so I'm really I got my hopes up for this one. I don't think it's gonna be the same as Forspoken, where it's the exact same gameplay. But if you just look at like some of the Forspoken content from before, where the way that she jumped around and the way this girl jumps around, it looks very similar. So I really hope that they took that formula and made it way better, way different. But that's the way it looks to me. So I'm looking forward to it. South of Midnight, day one in Game Pass. The next thing that I wrote down was Cloud Helm, which
okay.
kind of just looks like a 3D action adventure. I didn't put anything else for that, but 3D action adventure, Cloud Helm. Um, I wish listed that one. Stand Alone is the next one. I believe this one is just another, 2D slasher. It was just a 2D slasher. I don't know anything else to really say about it, but I wrote that one down. Mecha Break. We've seen Mecha Break now for a long time. I'm like,
Yeah.
it looks still really good. It looked just like the Gundam Wings, like just battling it out. But they just kind of showed it here, and then that was just it. Doesn't have the same steam as some of their other showings. But I mean, at this point, I think we just like, hey, just release the game. We just want to see it, and play it. Um, Anything else you mentioned like in between here? Because I'm kind of going in
No,
order of how it released.
yeah, no. The next one that like really. I mean, there was some here and there that I was like, oh, this looks okay. But the last one that caught my attention was like I think the last game shown.
Okay. So the next thing I wrote down was Chronos, the New Dawn. It
Okay.
looks a lot like Dead Space and Callisto Protocol. I don't think it's as flashy as Callisto and Dead Space. It doesn't look as polished as Dead Space, but it looked good enough. Like I'm like, if you're a fan of those type of games, then this should be right up your alley. And so I wrote that one down. They spent a little bit of time on this one too, with like two developers who was just like answering certain questions that they were like hinting that certain stuff was going to be in the game, and then answered the question saying like, we're not trying to copy Dead Space, we're just taking this is our tech or our take on that type of like art style or whatever. So like, okay, that's pretty cool. The next one, funny enough, this is another one of those like probably lose your man card game. Ruffy and the Riverside. I actually was ignoring this in the beginning, but they kept comparing it to the bigger platformers. They compared it to Banjo, they compared it to Crash, and was like, "We're this is gonna be better than these games." Like they kept saying that, and they were showing certain footage and stuff too, which I'm like, they probably had to get permission to show the footage of some of those other franchises, but they kept mentioning it. They didn't show Mario, funny enough. So I'm like, probably Nintendo was like, you're not going to mention our game. But they said, hey, we're going to be better than any of these other platformers. And we're just showing this dude. And I'm like, okay, you know what? I'm going to hold you to it. I'm going to wish list this and check it out later once it finally comes out. Because they set the bar high. I'm like, platformers are not really fully back yet. But these guys just came on the scene and said, we better than all of them, all your favorites. So I'm like, all right, if you really saying that, I want to see it. So that's Ruffy and the Riverside. So I just wrote that down. Um, and then I had like one last game before I wrote down South of Midnight again. Steel Seed, which I think this one they gave a definitive date of like April 10th. So it's really close. Um, I think this was also a flashy slasher.
Yeah.
But yeah, Steel Seed. That was like one of the last ones that I wrote down in this really long show.
I
But
also had the game Painkiller. It was a remake or a reboot, I guess,
hmm
from an old game from like early 2000s. Whereas basically it's like the whole world like looks all like you know deadly and hellscape, and then you're just like a first-person shooter. So it's just your dark, gritty first-person shooter game. That one was the last one that I put. That looked interesting for me.
yeah, I thought it was interesting that this show in general, like they had a nice big stage, almost like like if a wrestler was gonna come out on a stage with
Yeah,
neon lights and everything. I'm like, yo, y'all really put this together and really plan for it and stuff, because I wasn't paying attention to like any release date or window for the show itself. It just sort of popped up on the feed.
mm-hmm.
Um, but hey, they put some effort into it. They went and got a couple actors that we know. That's not a new thing. They've done that before. I remember they did that with I think Lori Bailey and the dude who plays Spider Man, and
Mm-hmm.
then the God of War dude and another girl at one point. So like yeah, that's what they do. So they really put some time into their production and everything. But I do have to say, overall, I kind of gave it a 6 out of 10. I think it was just it was still just a little too long.
Yeah,
This really was 2.5 hours. It was packed with a lot of content, and then the one dude who's like running the YouTube channel, was like on the second half doing that show and other things and stuff. And so it kind of just kept going. But yeah, 6 out of 10 for me. What are you saying?
Same. 6 out of 10.
6.
I think it was just too long, but it had
Mm-hmm.
some nice highlight games, and it felt like there was something, at least like something that was really good for everybody. Like instead of it just being like a game for everybody, it felt like something that everyone can like really go, oh yeah, I'm really interested in that. Like, and I like that variety.
Yeah. So that's it. That's it for the show. It was a lot of content. I'm excited to finally see if we can get some answers from Nintendo regarding their new system. I
Yeah, I actually
expect
have one more
them.
topic.
Go ahead.
Yeah, and it has to do with kind of Nintendo. So Multiverses got shut down, right? And the company that was making it, they established that their Multiverses game was inspired by Smash Bros. And
Hmm.
apparently, before they got shut down, they were working on making a Warner Brothers version of Mario Kart. They were just gonna stay copying Nintendo
Mm.
as a big IP, so they did Smash Bros. And they're gonna do Mario Kart next with Warner Bros. Characters, which I actually would have been interested in. I think it would have been funny, like the different voices and stuff. But yeah, that's
Still,
what they were working on before they got shut down.
still free to play though. It was gonna be a free to play online only thing.
Probably.
Yeah. I didn't really revisit it yet, but I still wanted to say like people can go check out Sonic Team Racing if you really wanted to look at a racing game before their new ones come out. Um, it's way too easy in my period, in my opinion. But yeah, go check that out while it was still cheap. I don't know if it's still $10, but go check it out. Wishlist it if it's not $10, or just buy it, whatever. But I think that's all we got. An hour and a half. We back to the old format, so we got to get up out of here. Like, comment, share, subscribe. I will catch you after the Nintendo Direct, probably a couple days after we get to really let it sit in and we can discuss it. Because I'm looking for them to answer some questions about the hardware. Because I am speculating like the upgrade paths and stuff like that. So I hope they answer some questions. I hope they give us the price of the thing, which I'm pretty sure is still gonna be the $400. But we'll see. We'll see. So yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Peace.